Cowboys, we should bring this guy in. He writes for rattlinghumsports.com. He covers the Cowboys. He's an alum of the Tyler Morning Telegraph, and he's with us right now from Rattlin' Hum Sports and Postin Postcards. It's Matthew Postins. How you doing, sir?
Fine, Bryan, and I cannot speak to Tony Romo's bathroom habits, so help you there.
Well, I guess we got to let you go then. Nice talking to you. Anyway, this is on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com right now. By the way, I got to get that in there. Okay, but you can attest to the fact that what Brad Sham said yesterday about it being a steaming pile of fertilizer was a really good description of that ball game yesterday.
No, it was not a pretty football game at all. I mean, what you basically saw were two teams that have losing records for a reason. For Cleveland, it's just a lot of young guys that just haven't learned to play together yet and haven't learned to close out games yet, and that was very evident Sunday. That's one of the big problems they've had this year. They've played good games against teams like the Giants and the Eagles and other teams in the NFL, but they just haven't been able to close the deal. For the Cowboys, it's just inconsistency. They played a terrible first half, especially in the offensive end. And then all of a sudden, the second half, everything kind of clicked, or at least clicked enough to where they could get back in the football game. But even then, it wasn't easy. They had to win it. They had to kick a field goal to tie it. They had to kick a field goal to win it. I mean, it's a steaming pile of fertilizer, but it's a 500 steaming pile of fertilizer right now.
Well, so that makes it a much better bag of fertilizer, I guess, than it would be. How you just said it? They're 500. How? With that offensive line, how can you possibly be a 500 football team with an offensive line that looks as bad as an expansion team right now?
Well, it's a good question. I think it boils down to a couple of things. You know, number one, as much as we slam Tony Romo, you have to recognize the fact that he's able to extend plays because of his mobility in the pocket and his ability to throw from different arm positions and his ability to just do creative things with the football when he's in trouble. And I think the other thing you have to look at is, you know, honestly, on the defensive side, they haven't played lights out defensively, but they've played well enough week in and week out to keep the Cowboys from, you know, just falling out of football games completely. I mean, 13-0 at halftime. You could say the defense didn't play great. I would contend the defense actually played pretty good in the first half because that easily could have been a 21-0 football game, but the defense kept the Browns from getting in the end zone two more times. One of those drives, it looked like they were on their way to scoring, and the defense was able to step up and keep them out. So between Romo extending plays and the defense playing solid football, I think those are your two big reasons why you're 5-5, despite the fact that the offensive line, you know, looks more like Louisiana Tech's than Texas A&M's.
Wow, boy! I mean, and that's being really insulting to Louisiana Tech, by the way. That was just that's brutal. What I watched yesterday in the offensive line, and I mean, Michael Irvin today said if this was Jimmy Johnson's days, Doug Free would have been cut after yesterday.
Well, yeah, that may very well be true, but at this stage in the season, there really isn't a whole lot you can do. You can't make a trade. The trade deadline passed last month. Unless there's a veteran out there who wants to come out of retirement and play and can still play at a consistent level, you know, these are pretty much the horses you've got. And right now you've got an offensive line where you don't know what Tyron Smith's status is going to be for Thursday's game. With the high ankle sprain, I would venture to say he's probably not going to play, which means you're going to be starting Jeremy Parnell at that left tackle spot. Then you're looking at guard. Maybe Mackenzie Bernardo will be able to slide back over from center to guard. If he can't, then he's going to stay at center, and you're probably looking at Derek Dockery at guard, and Dockery looks terrible, frankly. He looks very overmatched. He looked his age for the first time since he's been in Dallas. And then the right side of the line, you've still got Nate Livings over there who's doing okay. And then you got Doug Free. I can't explain what's happening with Doug Free this season. He's actually played well the last 2 years. But this year, moving back over to right tackle, for some reason, something is not right. I don't know if he's hurt and he's not telling people, but he's just not playing like the Doug Free we've been used to seeing the last couple of years.
Explain to me how we all could watch this yesterday and see what that line looked like, and then have Jerry Jones actually come out and say that he was really pleased with the offensive line.
Well, that's what Jerry's going to say.
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's starting to sound just borderline senile.
It does, and you know, and Garrett hasn't had his press conference yet today. He doesn't talk to the media until 6 today. But I'd venture to say you could rewind last week's press conference when they beat Philadelphia, and it'll pretty much be the same press conference today. I mean, they're going to rewind the same things. They're going to say the same things publicly. privately, I can't imagine Jerry Jones got any sleep last night after watching that offensive line play. But like I said a second ago, there isn't a whole lot they can do about it. It's not like you can go out and make an 11th hour trade or an 11th hour signing and get somebody like you can in baseball who can make an immediate impact on your team. It just doesn't work that way in football. So, Jerry puts a good spin on it, but I'm sure he knows privately that this offensive line is just not anywhere where he thought it would be at this point of the year.
I'm telling you, it's an expansion team offensive line. I watched lines like this protecting Archie Manning with the New Orleans Saints. They're just horrible. Yeah,
they're definitely below average. I mean, if you think about the offensive lines throughout the NFL, I think they're probably in the bottom fourth, and we're talking about one of the worst 8 offensive lines in the NFL right now. They just they can't get the push they need on running downs, and you saw them give up 7 sacks to a no-name defensive line for Cleveland on Sunday. They're not doing a very good job in pass protection either. I don't see how anybody can look at this Cowboys team right now and see them as a legitimate playoff contender. I mean, they have some good pieces and some good players playing right now, but if you can't protect your quarterback, that's pretty much a recipe for not making the postseason.
Hey, and then you go to the other side of the ball, and I know what we talked about with the defense. They held them to 20 points, but no pass rush at all. Whedon standing back there, you could count to 15 with the time he had yesterday to throw the football.
Well, first of all, let's give a tip of the hat to the Cleveland offensive line. That's probably their best unit on that team. You got a Pro Bowler in Joe Thomas. They've really gone about building an offensive line the right way. They've gone out and drafted pieces year after year. They've developed them, and they've built them into a very cohesive unit. It's one of the reasons why they're staying in football games, because they've got a lot of young guys at skill positions, but they've got a solid, fairly veteran offensive line that plays well together. On the other side of that, I'm not really sure why Rob Bryan thought rushing 3 in the first half was a good idea, because that was part of the reason why Brandon Whedon had so much time to throw. He just rushed 3 guys in the first half. He corrected that in the second half and started bringing more 4- and 5-man rushes and some blitzes. But I can't understand why a defensive coordinator as aggressive as Rob Bryan would go out and play a non-aggressive pass rush defense in the first half. The only thing I can think of is they had so many offsides calls against Philadelphia the week before that maybe they just overreacted to that and wanted to play back a little bit to avoid committing so many penalties.
I guess so. I'm at a loss. And then the other thing, I don't know if you saw it last night, Tony Dungy and company on the NBC game, they were showing the touchdown that Cleveland scored with about 1:05 left in the ball game. And when Whedon threw the touchdown pass, there were 9 guys on the field on defense for the Cowboys, and they were running guys on as Cleveland was already lined up to run the play. And Dungy said, hey, it's not that hard to get 11 guys out there. I mean, how do you have these kind of problems 10th game of the year?
Yeah, I saw the aerial. They showed an aerial replay of that during the game, and I mean, it was just mass confusion. That's exactly why the team was so wide open for Ben Watson on that second touchdown reception. At this stage of the year, you shouldn't be having those issues. If I recall, that play was preceded by either a penalty or a timeout. I don't remember which, but it was preceded by something in which I think the Cowboys thought one thing was going to happen and they were going to have more time to set themselves up on defense, and the other thing happened, and I think they got caught with their pants down, in all honesty. I think they were waiting for something else to happen that didn't, and then all of a sudden they realized that the play was about to be called and they didn't have their guys out there.
And that's at the point in the ball game where they literally could have lost the football game. This is a dumb football team.
Well, they've been undisciplined all year. I mean, if you're objective and you're watching this football team week in and week out, if you're not a fan, it's pretty easy to see that they're not a very disciplined football team. They create a lot of penalties for themselves. They commit turnovers. They create a lot of problems for themselves. If you look at their wins from this season, they're winning games in spite of themselves. I mean, this was a win in which they won the game in spite of themselves. I think you could say the same thing about the Philadelphia game, even though Philadelphia kind of tanked in the fourth quarter. I think you could certainly say that about the Carolina game and even the Tampa Bay game. They're winning games in spite of themselves. They're not playing at a high level. They're playing at about an average level, and that's why they're a 500 football team right now.
Okay, so now they get ready to play the Washington Redskins, and if they thought they had problems with Brandon Whedon, what do you think that RG3 is going to pose for them this Thursday?
Well, RG3, as you know, is a completely different animal from a Brandon Weeden or an Andrew Luck. RG3 is not a running quarterback. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and throw that out right now. RG3 is a passer who can run the football.
Absolutely.
And what Mike Shanahan has done is he's done a great job of taking advantage of both facets of Robert Griffin's game. He puts him in high percentage situations where he can throw the ball effectively, and then they run some nice sprint option plays where Robert Griffin can get out and make a choice between the run and the pass. He's had a wonderful year, at least from a rookie quarterback standpoint. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, doesn't make a lot of turnovers. I think the Redskins would hope that he would minimize the risk to his body as he goes along in his NFL career. But, between him and Andrew Luck, and really, Brandon Weeden's had a good year, Russell Wilson's having a good year in Seattle. It's been a great year for rookie quarterbacks, and RG3's right at the head of the class. And
then the performance he had yesterday, 14 out of 15? I mean, just sick what he's doing back there.
Yeah, he's a highly accurate passer to begin with, but when you put him in an offense like the offense that Mike Shanahan runs, which has elements of the West Coast offense, and that's built on short intermediate routes and short 3-step, 5-step drops, you're going to make an accurate passer even more accurate. And that's one of the great things about RG3 is the fact that he knows how to hit receivers in stride. He knows where to put the football. And that's something that's pretty rare for a rookie quarterback. And to have two of them come into the league like Griffin and Luck this year, both guys who are accurate and know where to put the football, that's a bumper crop as far as quarterbacks are concerned.
Okay, now we're looking. You mentioned Tyron Smith, probably not going to play. Are we ever going to see DeMarco Murray again this year?
Well, we haven't gotten the update from Garrett yet today, but my guess is we'll see him at some point this year, but I don't think we'll see him on Thursday. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that Murray did work out last week, but he didn't practice with the team. And if you're looking at a progression from an injury, first you got to get the injury healed, then you've got to start working out, and you've got to start working out with the football team. And then you have to get your coaching staff comfortable enough to the point where they feel like you can actually, make something happen on the football field. So right now, he's in between working out and working out with the team. And the fact that they've only got 3 days to prepare for this game, I just don't see DeMarco Murray playing on Thursday. You might see him against the Eagles after Thanksgiving, but I just have a hard time seeing DeMarco Murray playing on Thursday.
And then the question is, would he make that much of a difference given that offensive line can't get a push?
I'm not sure how much of a difference he will make. The one thing that he will give them that they don't have right now is a physical inside the tackles running back. Felix Jones can't give you that. Lance Dunbar can't give you that. Philip Tanner seems to have fallen off the face of the earth the past few weeks, and he was the one back that could sort of give you that. Murray is the one back they have that can give you that kind of running between the tackles. I don't know how much that helps you with an offensive line that can't get a push between the tackles, but perhaps if they run the ball inside enough times and start getting the defense to suck in on that, perhaps that opens things up on the outside of the offense. But, yeah, until Phil Costa comes back, I would venture to say this offensive line is going to continue to be in bad shape.
All right, so what happens Thursday, you think?
Anything.
Man, I thought you hung up for a second.
First of all, it's Thanksgiving Day.
Yes, it is.
Anything
so maybe we'll nap through the game and it won't matter.
I mean, this is the game that has given us Leon Lett in the snow. This is the game that has given us Kevin Williams in the snow. I mean, Randy Moss with the 3-touchdown day on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, anything can happen in this particular game. Right now, it's a pick'em. It really is a pick'em. I mean, I think if the Cowboys' defense is able to contain RG3, especially when he's running the football, if they can keep him from getting outside the tackle and force him to make decisions on the run and throw the football away, then I think they have a decent chance to win the game. I think at this point, if you're the Cowboys, you just have to think about this game. I mean, if you start thinking ahead and thinking to yourself, well, we're 5-5 right now, we're a game behind the Giants, we got a chance to tie that to the division lead, that's just kryptonite for them.
Oh, no question.
They can't stand prosperity. They should go into this game thinking they're 0-10. and go out and play lights out. And if they do that, they might actually win the game. You know, they're a contender for the postseason in name only. They're not a legitimate postseason contender, but if they just focus on winning this game this week and then concentrate on winning the Philadelphia game, they're 7-5, and suddenly they're actually a team to contend with for whatever reason in this NFC playoff race. But you know, one more loss pretty much sinks them. But right now, I actually haven't decided who I'm going to pick in this game yet because it really is that dead even.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it could be that dead bad like yesterday. That's what I'm concerned about at this point.
Well, I think if the game's dead bad, I don't think Jerry or Jason Garrett will care as long as the Cowboys win.
That's true. You do make a really good point there. All right. Hey, Matthew, good talking to you, buddy. We appreciate it. Of course, you can read all of his stuff in rattlinghumsports.com. And how often do you post anyway during the week?
I usually post once a day.
Once
you'll
a day.
usually see our this will be a strange week because of the Thanksgiving Day game, but usually there's a game wrap on Sunday. I'll have a column up on Monday. Might skip Tuesday, but then on Wednesday you're getting into stories on a daily basis. We break down the opponent on Thursday, and then we break down the game on Saturday, early Sunday morning.
Very good. All right, man. Thanks very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bryan.
All right, Matthew Postins from rattlinghumsports.com, also posting postcards. There's a blog he writes as well, so check that out as well. All right, we're going to take a time out, and then we'll run through some of the reasons why I really think Stephen Jones would be so much better a general manager than his dad.
How many reasons you got?
How many fingers have you got? 9.
I got 9.
Okay, so I can do 9 at least.
Okay, great.
All right, back with more in a moment. 99.3 Talk FM.